Hello, agents, and welcome to State of the Game number 139 on the 13th of November. My name's Hamish. I'm going to be hosting State of the Game. It feels nice to be back after, it's been what, we didn't do 2 weeks, so I guess it's been 3 weeks since we've been here. We'll be talking a bit about what that, means for what we want to do for the shows in the future, so stick around for that. How you doing, Chris?
Very good. It's Wednesday already. Time flies. We're here. I'm very excited about the show being back, you being here, I'm being here. So I'm actually really happy to talk to you guys as well. We had gameplay streams. You had one yesterday, I think.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I think it's really cool to have these. We have this way of talking to the community. We have State of the Game. We have gameplay streams, which is a really nice informal way to kind of listen as well. The question is, should that be all?
Or is there more?
Is there more? So we're going to talk a little bit about that later on in the show. But before we get to all of that, we have priority alerts. Am I allowed to do sound effects as well? Is that okay? Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So there was a maintenance today,
Correct.
right? I don't know if that's how it's going to be going forward.
That's actually a very good point.
Because
So perfect introduction. So for everybody who's confused, we have two games, The Division 1 and The Division 2. It's not called The Division 1, but everybody knows. And we had maintenance, I guess.
maintenance.
Who knows? I'm not a native speaker, I always have an excuse. So for The Division 1, it was on Tuesdays. And then for The Division 2, we normally did it on Thursday.
That's why we did State of the Game on Wednesdays instead of the other day that we used to do it on. So are we going to have to switch days?
Yes, correct. So
Come on.
for various reasons, we're going to stick to a new schedule with the maintenance for The Division 2. I'm just going to highlight that because it's the main game currently that people are playing. That's going to happen on Tuesdays now. So
Right. Do I have to fight Yannick?
You might, if you want to challenge it.
Fine.
But yeah, it should be very simple. Basically, we're going to do maintenance on Tuesdays
Okay.
for The Division 2. And then if we need a maintenance for The Division 1, which is approximately every 2 weeks, we do it on Thursdays from now on.
What a topsy-turvy world we live in.
Crazy.
We're just reversing things. Okay,
Exactly
that's
the
good to know.
news that chat was looking for.
Not that it really changes anything, apart from we need to think about what that means for, does this show go on a Tuesday? Anyway, well, that's a future problem. All right. The maintenance today had a few fixes, and we'll just run through those really quick because we do have a bit of conversation that we want to have. So there was an issue fix that caused flares to be stuck and clipped with agents' bodies after the signal flare remote animation was interrupted, and while it did lead to some cool screenshots, not intended. Fixed an issue with the Dark Zone perks available at the base of operations. We were joking about that before. That notification would display despite having no new perks. That's fixed.
Correct.
Yes.
Unless chat tells us otherwise. So
Yeah.
please let us know.
Fixed an issue that caused character spaces to become distorted after cutscenes.
Yep, they're also very cool screenshots, but not what we want to see. So we fixed that.
It's just paying homage to, what was it, AC Unity?
I think so.
That had like the famous screenshot. Fixed an issue where the social menu did not function when accessing a downstate in a pre-made group. There was an issue where players were unable to share gear mods. That's fixed now too. The issue where the players that had purchased a year 1 pass were unable to activate the technician specialization on any world tier. That is fixed. There was an issue where the donation tabs for any projects that require gear items did not show the correct equipment. There was an issue fixed where there were crashes when engaging enemy NPCs in co-op challenging difficulty at Lincoln Memorial. That's fixed now too. The Kenley one, that's kind of hot off the press because when this was written up, we'll kind of have to put a big X on it because something's already changed.
Correct.
There.
Yeah. So when Kenley College came back the first time with TU6, we had some issues where the Diamondback was first available for anybody who already had finished it. They just walked in and got it. Obviously not intended. You should finish it. No, I did not actually. I was a good boy. But I still have my first one, so I'm happy with that.
Good.
And then secondly, once we fixed that, we also realized that even if you replay Kenley College, for some players it was not possible to access the chapel then. So yesterday when Kenley College opened, the bug was still present and we were working on a fix. The thing is we had to test the fix today during maintenance and afterwards, and it takes a while to go through Kenley College. So the chapel should now be available if you finish through Kenley College. If you've done so yesterday already, you might need to still redo Kenley College again today. But now everybody should have access to the Diamondback.
Great. I did want to, at some point, get Twitch polls up and running. And it seems Chad is already discussing who would win in a fight, me or Yannick. What's your take?
You're from like the southern hemisphere, I think, right? Like, so I think you have some tricks that we don't know here in Europe. So, you know, you'll probably win.
All right, I'll take it. If anyone would like to join us on a pay-per-view fight night situation right here in
For
the
the
State of the Game
championship
Room,
belt.
Yannick versus Hamish, the SmackDown.
Yes.
No, I would never hurt
Yeah.
that man. I love him too much.
Did you though hear that there's transpo to Candy College available?
I did.
It's gonna
What's
still be
happening with
there.
that one?
It's unfortunately still there,
Okay.
from what I know.
All right.
So
It's not
Taurus.
game breaking. It's just one of those
I
annoying
mean, it's one
ones,
of those
right?
annoying things, right? Exactly. Like, and it shouldn't be in there. The issue with those things is that we find the one bug that is causing it, and we're fixing this, and then we just assume that it's fixed, and then we go live, and it's like, hey, this is still not fixed, and we're like, oh, so it's something else. Hamish, Yannick, 5 votes.
So apparently Yannick's beating me by a factor of 5 to 1. Is that what
Wow.
you're saying? Why?
Wow.
Is it the beard? I mean, this is weak, admittedly, but
But your tats are cooler.
yeah, but but
Bond did point out that you're taller.
I am slightly taller than Yannick. That's true.
I can confirm that.
I would go Hamish.
Thanks.
I've got to say that though.
Yeah, it's true. All right, no, we're off topic. Balancing. So Negotiator's Dilemma and PvP has been one of those things
Yes.
that we want to talk about.
Correct.
Getting exploded, just like that is probably not the
Grenades raining.
the
Yeah.
nicest way to go down. How are we addressing Negotiator's Dilemma and
Yes.
PvP?
So I know that Frederick already talked about it on Twitter, I think, saying like, hey, we're looking into this, and obviously we are aware. I said that on Monday as well. We are looking to make changes to it, and I have them fresh out of the press from Frederick, so I'm just going to read them out because I haven't memorized them yet. So the blowback talent will be updated in the future, and that's the current iteration. So if you have feedback on that, also please let us know. The blowback talent will be changed so that the behavior of the launch grenade will also change. The grenade will also no longer explode immediately on contact. So you lose that feeling of out of nowhere getting exploded, as you said.
Sure.
It also allows you to dodge the grenade, obviously, if you can see it flying to you. On top of it, the grenade is getting a fuse timer when you launch it. So you have more time to evade it. And then also the UI will show you that there's something flying towards you, which is helpful because it's going to murder you. So I think that's also something that people will appreciate. And then lastly, if the fuse that is now attached to the grenade and takes 2 seconds to explode is not completely run down when the grenade lands, it can also just lie on the floor and you can walk into it if you're that stupid. To put it just very bluntly.
Okay. But I get it. Like, when you take explosive damage with no way to kind of deal with it, it's basically
Yeah.
proximity mines in GoldenEye. Did you ever play
Yes.
GoldenEye 64? You
Yes.
just have like that. Fun for the person who's like, haha.
Yeah.
Not fun if you're just like, oh, I'm dead.
And it's also like you can obviously gear towards having explosive damage negated a little bit, but you really have to spec into that direction to basically negate a build that is still very, very strong in other areas, right? People can still shoot you and all these things. So it is something that I think is the right way forward. But again, if you have feedback on it, also let us know. The notes of this show and the exact fixes will also be available on our recaps that are going live after the show goes live about an hour and a half or so. So they will have the exact details on the currently proposed changes.
Okay. We do see people talking about the special ammo in the ODZ as well with the unlimited amount. That's on our radar as well.
Yep.
That's not something that was addressed in this maintenance.
Correct.
But when we have news on that, we'll let you know. Current bugs are NPCs being stuck in meshes, blocking your progression.
Yes.
The invisible walls thing, I was asking you about this before. Like, there's some things there. We have some ideas on our side of what they might be, like broken nav mesh, so you can't walk past certain areas. My question to you was, is it also blocking collisions of bullets and that sort of thing? Because then it's either a wall or just basically no floor to walk on.
Yeah.
If people have videos or screenshots or locations where that is happening, that will really help us identify
Correct.
exactly what those are.
Yeah, it's the same for the NPCs being stuck. Like, to find those situations, they're not like it's not just that one NPC type gets stuck or in one area there's invisible walls. So we literally have to look at every report, and if you have a video or a screenshot, it's always more helpful because we can actually then go to the same location and find out if we can do it.
Yeah.
Because as I mentioned a bunch of times on here, but also on the gameplay streams, we have to reproduce these things internally before we can fix the bugs. So
Yeah, and also some of the player reports that have already come in have helped us find
Yes.
out where those things are happening.
Correct.
So keep them coming, please. All right, so when recording gameplay on the Xbox One, it doesn't include audio. That's
Yeah.
a bug.
Yeah, that is a bug. I was saying that it's probably not us. It turns out it is us. We bugged that. So if you're streaming on a mixer, for example, with your Xbox, or if you're recording video gameplay, your audio on Xbox might not be recorded when you're playing The Division 2. We have a fix for this that was found, I think, just recently.
Okay.
And we're hoping to put that into the next update that is coming soon, hopefully. And that will probably focus also on bug fixing and some of the balance changes that we just talked about.
Okay. What can you also tell us about the apparel, like the free apparel that's out in
Yes.
the world not being collectible?
Yeah, so that was a very longer topic for us. We know that players have been reporting that as soon as launch that they just stopped getting free apparel. And on some occasions it was like, okay, sure, at some point it just stops because there's a limited pool. So we didn't assume necessarily that that was applying to all players. But obviously if you have been playing for 6 months, it's not unlikely that you have everything that is in the game. So when we were looking into reports from players, there was a lot of like theories in the community, but also internally, like, is it one item that you collect that suddenly stops the progression? Is it a certain item pool? Is it, whatever it is? And when we were looking at the reports from players, we saw that some had like 30 items, the others had 45 items. So we're like, there's no clear path on why this is happening. So now we just did a very clear route on like, we're doing a systemic change to the apparel that is dropping in the world and that you can loot from the world, which means and we also have the exact number that we can share now, 72 items that are free. They're gray apparel available in the world. The fix will make it so that all of these items, no matter how many you have currently, will be put into the pool. So when that patch goes live, everybody who doesn't have every 72 items, they will be able to find more apparel in the free world.
Okay, cool. I do see some people talking about the PS4 servers and stats in the RAID not working after TU6. Is that something that's on your radar?
Yeah, so RAID, we had a little bit of a miscommunication on the official forums. Somebody had good intention to tell the players what we're doing currently. So I know that there's, on the PC leaderboard, there is a, I think, 4-minute something speedrun on the RAID, which sounds very unlikely, and I think it's fair to say impossible, because just the time you have to walk through the whole thing is longer than that. We have seen reports of people saying like, these guys have been cheating. We have other reports that people are saying like, oh, I know these guys, they actually had a disconnect, and there's a lot of things. So first off, we would just want to say like, we want to investigate this properly. We can't just go off of, assumptions or people saying something. The important thing in the TLDR is we're going to look into removing these times because they haven't been, done properly. It's impossible, as I said. But we also want to make sure that we don't reset everything on accident.
Okay.
So we haven't had planned to remove any times. We didn't think that was necessary. So now we just have to figure out in the systems exactly how to do it without resetting everybody, because that would be unfair as well. We'll give you an update as soon as we know exactly how that's going to look and how it's going to go. But I also want to say, like, if the players that had these times achieved did cheat, and we find out that they cheated, then there will obviously be punishment.
Yeah.
If we don't find anything, and if there was a disconnect or a bug on our side, which is totally possible, then we're not going to ban anybody for doing anything that they couldn't prevent doing.
Is there something funky going on with the PS4 servers as well, or?
So that's something that I'm interested to hear more about. We know that there's some blue screens for the PS4 happening still. We got some fixes in with TU6. The team is working on other things currently as well. For the servers, if you let us know as well which region you're playing in, and then also most importantly, what are you doing, the activities. We said earlier in a set of the game, for example, that conflict servers are disconnected from the other servers. So if you're playing conflict, latency is different. The connection to the servers is different than if you're playing Dark Zone or the open world, for example.
Yeah.
So it's always important when you tell us what you're doing.
All right, so that's about all for what we had for the issues and
Yes.
maintenance part of the show. And while we could bring up the developer interview thing, but I mean, you kind of like one of us. So
Yes.
it's not something we need to do, even though you're a developer and we're interviewing you. We wanted to have a chat about what you want to do in terms of getting information out to the players, and how you feel the best way to proceed with that is. Obviously, there was a survey that came out that you were involved with. And with community research.
Correct, yes. The community researchers put that together for us. Well, not only for us, multiple purposes, but it is definitely something that we will use the results of.
Yeah.
So first, because I know that we addressed it a little bit in the intro when everything was still blurry and everything, we have been working on episode 3. We are still working on episode 3. We have no infos on this show. And there will be shows that we will not have any news on content or on new episodes or whatever it looks like.
Sure, we've been here before. I mean, we had the same thing happen with the Division 1 if you were around, right?
Yeah.
As much as we'd love to be able to tell you that every week there's a new mode or a new exotic dropping, that's just not possible, right?
Yeah.
So, and while episode 3 is coming and we will have a lot of information about it when the time is right, we don't have that every week.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. And we also know that when we come on set of the game and we don't have new content or we don't have anything that is like snappy or flashy or whatever, we oftentimes feel like we're under-delivering. Maybe that doesn't really reflect in the community, but we oftentimes also think like, hey, we could have done better or we could have done something else.
Sure.
And then obviously we also read, forums, Reddit, social media, and some players are like, oh, if there's something new, I don't really want to tune instead of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating for people who are watching, right?
Yeah.
And that's also equally frustrating for us because we
Correct.
want to just, hey, here's everything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like even just like talk about things that we're very interested in, but we also know that we need to build that expectation in a correct way. So going forward, like if we want to talk about a topic that is not new, but we think is interesting, I think it's fair if we go the approach that we tell players, on a Monday or maybe even on a Friday beforehand already, that this is the topic for State of the Game next week. If it's not new content, it's normally also easier for us to plan that ahead because we obviously need to still have a dev here, for example, or a user researcher, or whatever we want to do. So we should be able to give a heads up more to players as well. So that's one of the things that we want to do. But it's also about the content that we want to show, right? And Hamish's team has a lot of input on that, what we want to show and what we think is interesting. And we also want to do, we want to have an honest look at like us with you together in the community to say like, okay, we're going to propose some content in a second. Do we want to do this instead of the game? Do we want to do a different stream? Do we want to do, things like a production timeline where we show you not what's coming up, but how does production actually look like? How does it? How did we go from title update 5 to title update 6? Like, what is in the timeline? How do we do all these things? And we know that that is not new content. That is not episode 3. That is not whatever is coming out. But it also helps us to show off what we're doing, what we're proud of, and it also gives the devs an opportunity to talk about things that are they're proud of.
Sure. I think we are in the situation where State of the Game has become one of our main points of communication for the game.
Yep.
But we have set the expectation that it's about things that are always happening in the game. And there are other things that we want to talk about, right? We've talked about it a lot, that it would be really cool to have environment artists here.
Yeah.
Like have Jeremy take us through the White House and how it was built and that sort of thing. The question is that State of the Game?
Correct.
Or should it be something else?
And it's
Maybe
not
it
something
should
that
be
we want to decide on our own because you guys are our audience. You watch us. So it's not an immediate, like we're not going to look at Twitch chat and be like, yes, that's the decision that we're going to make.
Yeah.
We want to talk to you about that in the next couple of days. And also more importantly, like what would you like to see? Is there things that you ever wondered about the production of State of the Game, for example? Like how does the streaming room look? How do we set up a stream? Do you want to know about what a com dev does? Or do you want to know what we have Nicky Kuppens, for example, who was here for recalibration and other things. He has a fancy title. What does it actually mean? What are parts of those things?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a lot to talk about, but maybe it's not State of the Game stuff. That would mean, or it would imply, and again, there are no decisions have been made as it pertains to this, but we wanted to have input on what we're thinking from our side and then having that kind of bounced off the community as well. I mean, personally, I like the idea of having State of the Game be just State of the Game and making sure that the expectation of the community is that's where you get the updates on what we're fixing or what's coming.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
And then we have other stuff. I mean, we talked about it as well. The gameplay streams have come back, and that's another way to communicate.
Yeah.
But maybe there are other ways as well.
It's also that we know that some players would like, if there's no news, if there's nothing that we can discuss on State of the Game that is new, why do the show, right? Why do State of the Game in general at that point?
I think Gustavo made a point just now. It's saying it's just frustrating if it's just two community leads who can't say anything at all.
Yeah.
We agree.
So maybe that's also something that we have to discuss with you guys. Like maybe then we don't do the weekly stream on Wednesday, or for that particular week we don't do a stream on Wednesday, but we still give you an update. So that could be as simple as an article that says like maintenance time, this, bug fixes that we're looking into, this. And then we have something that we want to show as well. That might be part of that. But that's totally also a point where we can say like, okay, if we don't have anything that is, what the majority of you guys want to see on State of the Game, we don't have to do the show this week. We would still do like a gameplay stream. We would still do at the same time maybe, or around that time at least. So you can talk to us. But that is something that we want to discuss with you guys. And again, there's no decision made, and there's pros and cons for both things. But we are, and I just want to say that, nobody is paying me to say this. I just want to be very clear about this. I'm very excited about some of these things that we want to talk about behind the scenes. Like, I think, again, Jeremy is one of my favorite guys here, and I love watching his private streams when he talks about art. Like, having him walk us through the White House, I know that for me that is exciting, but I also know that it might not be exciting for everybody who wants to watch something on State of the Game. So again, option is do it on a different stream, and then the other option is if we don't do those behind the scenes on State of the Game on Wednesday, do we do something else for State of the Game? And maybe we can talk about what your team has been working on.
Sure, I think if we were to do something like a White House tour or an art demo, I mean, people might remember back in the Division 1, Jeremy and I actually did a behind-the-scenes art stream, which was really, really cool. And that was kind of the thinking behind this. The benefit of separating out that behind-the-scenes content that isn't critical, time critical for the game experience, but is also really interesting to people who love the Division.
Yeah.
It's hard to do it on the State of the Game because you don't have much time.
Correct.
We could potentially, let's say, hypothetically, get Jeremy in and do a 3-hour stream, right? But if we untether it from State of the Game, that's possible. But right now, we don't have that option.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm into that.
Yes, me too. I'm totally up for those
I'm
things.
throwing ideas at you without asking you if that's okay. But I would love to do that.
It's Jeremy's time, so I don't really mind.
Yes, South Stand seems to like the idea as well. Yeah, I appreciate it. You mentioned it before, so we've also been kind of thinking of different ways to communicate. You mentioned like State of the Game might just be an article one week.
Yep.
It could be videos, or the podcast could even be brought back. We have a segment that George has been working on. We intended it for it to be a segment on State of the Game, and while right now today we're kind of challenging what State of the Game is, I kind of wanted to show what we've been working on, so when we do have whatever our new State of the Game looks like in the future, they can expect this type of content on the stream, or also maybe we don't do a stream and these things are shared on Twitter and that sort of thing. So people might remember back in Division 1 we did some dev Q&A stuff. I liked the idea because it gave us the opportunity to talk to different devs who you might not have seen before, although I realize this video is devs you have seen before, but bear with me.
We're going to ignore that fact.
The burden to bringing someone on the stream is quite high.
Yes.
Right? And sometimes a developer interview of 15, 20 minutes is not really warranted.
Yeah.
So imagine we really want to answer a question. What's happening with the invisible walls? We can go and ask someone and get an answer for you a lot faster. And that could go up on Twitter, and it could also be in the stream. Anyway, so this is going to be, a pilot preview of what we wanted to do for a new developer Q&A segment. And we even have like a little graphic, in which I realize I've introduced the whole thing now, so we'll show it anyway. Yeah. So the developer Q&A, it's, I think, really important, again, because you get different developers, you get different questions, and they don't necessarily need to be tethered to the stream.
Yes, and it's also not us just rambling around the written down notes. They actually have the knowledge about what's going on. So if Fredrik was here, or somebody else who changed the negotiator's dilemma, they actually would have more information than just what I wrote down on the notes.
Cool. All right, let's take a look at it. And George made these, so give him a clap. Please show the video. Thanks.
I'm Trick Dempsey. I'm a senior game designer on The Division 2. I mostly work on bounties and in-game content and invasions and projects and that sort of thing.
Amazing. So as you've already mentioned, you've seen a lot of the questions as well. We've had a lot of questions regarding Cassie and how she works and what does she do within the game.
So Cassie Mendoza is the gunrunner. She appears on a day and a half and daily cycle and gives a wide variety of weapons and gear and stuff to the player available in her shop. She's tightly related to Jared Nash, the Snitch. In order to find Cassie Mendoza, you have to speak to the Snitch, and he will tell you either where she currently is or where she will be appearing next. However, she operates on a schedule that says for 32 hours, she is relocating. She can be found nowhere inside of the world, and then for 24 hours after that, she will be at a set location for that full 24 hours. This 32-hour, 24-hour system alternates constantly, which is really convenient because a week is 168 hours long and it divides into it evenly. So she's gone for a day and a half, she's up for a day, and ad nauseum on repeat.
My name is Nicky Kuppens, and I'm a senior game designer on The Division 2.
So the reason I'm speaking to you today is you would have seen that there's a lot of discussion about 3 blueprints that were removed in Title Update 6. Is there anything you can tell me about that?
Yeah, those blueprints that we removed were part of the original implementation for upgrading your specialization sidearms. Because you get them a low gear score, we wanted to give you an option to like upgrade those. So that was what those blueprints were for. But later we redesigned how the specialization skill trees worked, and we decided to basically make the upgrading part of that. So those 3 blueprints are just completely redundant because you don't need them anymore. They're not used, so we just hit them for now.
Good job, George. Clap.
And I didn't.
I'm a fan.
Yes, me too.
It's nice because people are sick of us talking.
And you could
rightly
even
so.
see half of George's face,
I know.
which
It's a
made
really-
me really happy.
It's a really pretty left side of his face.
Yeah.
You look good, man. No, so if you do have feedback on these types of things and the ways we want to shift around the way that we communicate, I mean, the end goal for us, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we can get more dynamic information out in an easier, more accessible
Correct,
way,
yeah.
right?
And also have different ways to address you and talk with you.
Yeah.
And we know that state of the game is very important to a lot of you, and it's very important to us as well. But we also want it to be an experience that all of us like and share.
Yeah.
So I think these videos, as an example, would also be very great for social media on a Monday or on Tuesday. So it doesn't have to be on Wednesday. So I think that's what it boils down to. Let's find out together what we all would like, and then we can adjust.
We can do it.
We can.
No, I'm excited. I think that's all we really had to mention today, but if you do have feedback on this whole thing, please let us know. Forums, Reddit,
Yep.
all of that. Keep chatting to us and letting us know what you think.
Mhm.
Agent highlights. Have you
Yes.
seen any of these ones yet?
I have not. No, I was in
Right.
meetings for 6 hours a day.
Yes. Part of the conversation could be, for example, does agent highlights make sense more as a YouTube video or a social asset? These are all the things we need to confront
Yes.
now. Because if we go hardcore issues and updates with state of the game, maybe agent highlights and stuff goes somewhere else, and we'll figure that out. But for today, we're going to show you what we have in terms of agent highlights. So let's take a look at the first one.